Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I am your host, DPalm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. You can follow the entire MTR Network at the MTR Network. You can follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. Thank you for the listen, for the stream, for the download, for the view. If you're on our YouTube channel, you found us. Make sure you don't lose us. Make sure you subscribe to the UDPod feed everywhere you can. That way, you get all of our shows. You don't just get them all. You're the first to get them all. Every week, and especially the first to get your hands on special podcasts that we'll do like this one right here in the middle of a week, because I just want to give you more audio goodness. Make sure you're also leaving those 5-star reviews. Tell the people at iTunes just how much you love us. Leave 5 stars. Whatever you write, I'll read on the air. And if we're not quite a 5-star podcast for you, don't leave the 4 stars. I would ask you to hold off. Give us another chance. Email us at udpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know how we can get to that 5-star for you. And here we go with today's special podcast. All right, welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. We've got a very special guest today. We've got Justin from the ThreeFifs Podcast. Follow him on Twitter at LJ9Day. What up, Justin, man?
How's it going?
Man, glad to have you on. Not glad about the topic. We're here talking about kind of the wave of the year. Like the story of the year we saw on the Time cover was kind of the final, I don't know what the straw that broke the camel's back was, but women everywhere feeling rightfully empowered to call out the atmospheres that they've had to work and live in that have been so, I mean, they're violent atmospheres. They're violent, they're discriminatory, and they're being called out now, and it's about time for a change, don't you think?
Yeah, it definitely is. I think it's a mix of being empowered and just being fed up, right? Because like it gets to a point where you deal with so much, and we saw this happen with Michael Brown and Ferguson, where eventually a community just says, "Dog, enough is enough. Like, what more can you do to me?" Right? And I think women collectively just said, "Dog, enough is enough. What more can you guys? What more can you do to me?
You know what more can you do? It reminds me of kind of like, and I don't know if this is kind of your experience, but I remember just growing up like black and a little bit nerdy. Like it was a little bit like you kind of in a silo. You don't know where people are out there, but then we got to Twitter and you realize that the voices are loud and you got more empowered to talk about things that you love. Like it feels like to me, it was a wave, like something happened and something changed and something turned, and I'm glad it did, but it became I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. This is something else that's happening to other people, and that's kind of what got us where we are.
One of the most underrated aspects of social media is the shared experience. Being able to link up and talk with people and realize how small the world actually is and how not unique your experiences may be, right? Like we all may have individual experiences, but the overall tone and theme of those experiences aren't necessarily unique, like being black and nerdy. While at your high school, college, that may have been a unique thing. You get online, you realize, oh no, it's not unique. There's actually a lot of other people like me. And not only are there other people like me, they have varying tastes in the things that I like. So we can actually discuss them on deeper levels than just, oh cool, I like this thing. I like this thing. Oh, you know what? I really don't like this thing, but I like the overall culture. Oh cool, let's talk about it.
Exactly. And kind of the minutia of it.
Right. And then as you link up, as you go through all those experiences, you get the negative side of that too. And by negative, I mean you get to share your negative experiences, and you realize, yo, that thing that happened to me when I was 13 years old is not unique. That thing that happened to me with that creepy teacher is not unique. That thing that happened to me with my pervy boss is not unique. Mm-hmm. And I am not alone. So you see, you have all these women linking up, realizing they're not alone, and realizing that, yo, we don't have to take this. We are fed up.
And it's been mad interesting because the entire time it's been happening and unfolding kind of like the entertainment space and happening and unfolding in like the political space, all I kept thinking about was the defense last summer of locker room talk. And oh God, when this light hits sports, it's going to get ugly, it's going to get bright. We've also got with us tonight a former, he worked at the mothership, ESPN. He's a friend of the podcast. He's done lots of great work with us. Nata Edwards, what's up, man?
Not much. You know, I had to come in and do an entrance of some sort.
Yeah, a little bit of a run-in. You know, we're going to throw the music on, you know, because you can't run in without music. That's always the wrestling trip that gets me. It's like, if I was your friend, I wouldn't go to the music guy like, hey, I can't go out there till you hit my shit. I'm just saying.
Well, you might have a point.
Well, thanks for coming on. Justin and I were just talking and kind of bringing up the listener up to speed. I don't know how we got here and how larger movement of women saying no more and putting their foot down and not being treated this way has finally hit the sports world. And I think you and I kind of talked about this months ago, maybe off air, maybe on air. I can't remember honestly, but we both said that when this lens hits sports, it's gonna burn. It's gonna burn bright.
Now, I do remember that we did talk about this. I believe it was on air. I think we didn't cheat the people on that one. Quite frankly, though, it was only a matter of time. And to be quite frank, I just, the bigger thing I guess I have with this is that at this point, I mean, this has been long overdue. Jerry Richardson and everything that was going on with Jerry Richardson, that was going to come to light. It was amazing how many people didn't know about the Flag Star stuff in '94.
Right.
And the fact that he probably never should have been the owner. And mind you, had he been
on Sunday, just hours after SI broke the news,
been more aware, he probably would have never been the Carolina Panthers owner. But as far as everything that came to light, I'm not entirely shocked. I know I've said this before on Twitter before, but this movement really has we're still in the infancy stages of all of this, considering 100%. that we still haven't gotten to the local news spots yet. We haven't heard about local sports directors, local anchors, local guys losing their jobs because of sexual harassment. Because if you've worked in the local areas, those are like little fiefdoms. And depending on which number you pull, you are probably going to have a job for life. And if you can continue to curry favor and move up the ladder and do these things, you're going to have a job for life there. And it's going to take someone saying, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to take this anymore. I'm going to speak out. And that's when it's going to get really interesting, because we're going to be like, no, not that weather guy. That weather guy was always so nice on TV or something along the lines of that. And we're coming to that point slowly but surely.
Well, let's go back a little for a second and catch the listener up. In case you haven't been aware, first of all, weird. Second of all, Jerry Richardson, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, on Sunday, this all came in a very big avalanche of news. It wasn't like a lot of these stories you'll hear like the beginnings of a story, and then you'll hear some rebuttals, and then maybe something will break. This happened over the course of, I want to say 6 hours, because I recorded UD Pod last Sunday, and I didn't know about it before I started recording. So what's happened is, apparently there have been multiple payouts in the past from the Panthers organization to individuals who've worked there for sexual harassment and racial discrimination claims. Also, there apparently was an SI story in the works for weeks where they interviewed 4 former Panthers employees who received, and I'm using their words here, significant monetary settlements due to inappropriate workplace comments and conduct by Jerry Richardson. The settlements came with non-disclosures, and the Panthers declined to comment to SI. They reiterated their statement they issued on this last Friday, and by the time Sunday hit, the NFL had not only taken over the investigation, Jerry Richardson had announced he was selling his team at the end of the season. Now, the details are sorted, and they can be found on the SI article linked in the show notes. But Justin, I want to start with you, and without trying to sound desensitized to it, because I know we're not. I know that the 3 men on this podcast, who I think I can speak for here, we approach these things in a thoughtful and caring manner, but at the same time, it almost feels disingenuous to say that we're shocked.
Right. So you can approach these things thoughtfully and empathetically, and there's still a level of, I don't want to say desensitization to it, but it's, like you said, not really shocking, right?
Well, I think that's where I rub against it, because for me, and I felt so naive when I said this out loud. I was like, that's crazy, the length and breadth of it. I had one of my female friends just stare at me like I was an idiot, because I wasn't saying that, because intellectually, I know that this happens, not just in the Gilded Towers. This happens in factories. This happens everywhere. If you put men and women together, men will try to assert their superiority over them, mostly sexually, because that's how men work. And I know that's how men work, because all men listening here are shaking their heads like, that's not me, that's not the guys I know. If you had a daughter, you'd warn her about men.
And that's the gag, right? Like, every dude that has a daughter, has a little sister, has a little cousin, the first thing they tell them is, watch out for girls, you better watch out. That guy is only about that thing, right?
Like, I'm going to let that Lauryn Hill slide. I'm going to let that slide. That's good.
I actually hate that album. We can talk about that later.
But you were here, unlike Lauren, you showed up on time.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yo, I had a friend buy Lauren tickets last year, and she's like, I couldn't believe she didn't show up. And I just looked at her like, ma'am.
Do you not have Google?
Let's move. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be distracted. Let's move on. But you're right. That's kind of the messaging that society has delivered for so long. So for me to say that I'm shocked to hear these things is on its face naive and like an encapsulation of my privilege as a man, and I have to deal with these things. But at the same time, I can think that it's maybe I have too much faith in people that, like, I don't know, it's not shocking, but it's shocking that it's still kind of shocking, if that makes any sense.
So that I completely understand, right? The level of, okay, I'm not surprised that it's Jerry Richardson, right? I'm not surprised that there was a level of shock that, yo, NFL owners are getting taken out of the paint for this?
Yo.
Like, it is the same level of shock I had when Donald Sterling got out of the paint, right? Because I'm like, this isn't even the worst thing Donald Sterling's done.
Well, and that's the crazy thing, because you've seen other owners in football and basketball who, I think the big step here was Jerry Richardson saying, I'm voluntarily selling my team. If he doesn't do that, then the league has to set precedent on how we're going to handle it.
So he may have said he's voluntarily stepping down. I guarantee you, those other 31 owners.
But if he blatantly says no and they have to force him out, then you set a precedent on how we as a league will handle owner-based discrimination, sexual and otherwise, cases. So by stepping down, he's doing it. And for the record, this is not some magnanimous fucking thing. He's gonna make $2.5 billion off of something he sold,
at least,
off of selling you bad food. That's how this happened. Let's be very real. And not selling you and me bad food because we're black and he wouldn't sell food to us. Anyway.
Yeah, there is that part.
But I think that, so no tears for this racist windbag who's self-aggrandizing enough to build 2 statues of himself within 2 states. This horse shit. Can we, first of all, let's get that statue out of, is it Bank of America Park?
It's Bank of America Stadium. Yes, there's one there. There's one in Wofford that I'm convinced will never come down.
I'm also convinced he's like the shadow owner of Wofford. But that's a whole other series of conspiracy theories I have about Jerry Richardson.
No, I don't disagree with you there. And I don't think it's a conspiracy theory either.
Let's stick with what we know, though. What we do know is that he instituted Jeans Friday, where he'd tell girls to he turned around and said, look at their jeans. It was like an open joke on campus. He had everyone call him Mr., which I literally gasped when I read that. I'm sorry. It takes a lot to shock me. Mr.? Nah, bro. I'm sorry. Look, those checks must have been great because, I'm not passing judgment anywhere. We've all swallowed shit for a paycheck.
Yes,
everyone
we have.
On this call, everyone listen to this call. Everyone, the highest boredoms in America, we've all on some level swallowed shit for a paycheck.
Yeah.
So I think it's just remarkable. Like, you're right that NFL owners are going to pay, but now I want to ask you specifically with what Jerry Richardson means to the Carolinas. This is a bigger deal, I think, locally than people are really going to give credit for.
Yeah, it's a very big deal to the point where you have the quarterback of the franchise right now openly throwing cape on for Jerry Richardson like he's James Brown and Cam Newton's playing the role of Bobby Bird. But this is a very split fan base right now because you have people that are worried if the teams are going to move. Spoiler alert, it's not. More importantly, you have people that don't think what he has done was that bad, and for anyone that really thinks that, I dare you to read that article.
I run those people off the show.
They don't sit here anymore. More importantly, the shock. I guess the thing is, we should have seen this one coming because, as I said earlier, there was the flag star thing. More importantly, and I don't think this is being mentioned enough nationally, I want to say it was about 2011, 2010. Jerry Richardson's having one of his last, I believe, press conferences because he hasn't had one since the lockout, I want to say.
Yeah.
But he talked to a Fox reporter, reporter for the local Fox affiliate, saying he would like to come up. She had done some piece that was unflattering to him, and he said he'd like for her to come up so he could, quote unquote, abuse her. I kid you not. In a room full of reporters.
It's the
we should have seen this coming.
Well, it's the untouchability of the position of the power. It's literally the dynamic we're talking about is, like we said, it cuts through all these different courses. But because, like I said earlier in the intro, the defense for our sitting president for his sexual misdeeds was, oh, that was locker room talk. That the lens was always coming to sports, but the idea that an owner be the first notable name caught up, or first active name caught up, is interesting to me. Then you turn to the things that are happening on an NFL Network, and I want to commend everyone who's speaking out, because, man, oh man, it's horrible. Because the NFL Network apparently, because you got to remember that this is literally not a media company. It's the propaganda arm of the NFL.
Exactly. It's the media arm of the league, and to have that be a cesspool.
It's staffed by former players who, I hate stereotyping athletes as the way they're stereotyped, but
yeah,
the results are like, I can't do it a lie. Like Heath Evans, Ike Taylor, Marshall Faulk, Donovan McNabb, and Sapp, like.
Don't forget Darren Sharper.
Darren Sharper, when he got so there's a great story. I'm gonna again link it in the show notes. Diana Moskowitz used to write at NFL Network. Used to work for NFL Network. She worked there for a year, and she wrote about her experiences. The title of the article is "You Survived the NFL Network by Staying Silent." It's a very good article. It's very hard to read. It's a very smart accounting of her time there. She says that she was her position was the one who, when she was, because of her background as a crime reporter, she would work for the league's literal media arm and get these reports from police sooner than they would. So the day that Darren Sharper was indicted, this is the paragraph from the article. It didn't say explicitly that NFL media was paying for the hotels when he stayed in LA, but I suspected it. After all, Sharper came to Los Angeles for NFL Network appearances. I pointed out to one of the top guys in the newsroom, John Marvel. I did hear Marvel yelling into the phone once about this. I have no idea who was on the other side, but Marvel was trying to tell them to ditch Sharper. Marvel lost. It took the network bosses, whoever they were people so far above everyone in the newsroom as to be invisible, more than a month to actually fire Sharper.
Yeah, it sounds about right. The TV arm is always going to be seen as higher than the quote-unquote writing arm. And even if you have writers pointing all this stuff out, it's going to take a while to get someone like that out of the paint, especially when they're so good on TV. And it's very hard to do if they're making you money. Only when it stops making you money do they ever really get rid of you.
The original lawsuit by Jamie Cantor towards the network names 3 former players, and also Eric Weinberger, former network executive producer and current president of the Bill Simmons Media Group. And the actions, I'm not going to read them here because it's not that kind of podcast. I'm sorry. I hate to say we have standards, but I think I just found them. McNabb, and it's crazy to me. Like, you read these accounting, you read the things that they get with, and again, like I say, shouldn't be shocked. But I think for me, more than anything, is the brazenness of it all and the attitude of knowledge that you knew that if this woman stepped forward with what she said, she would not be believed. And you knew that when you did this.
I would take it a step further, right? So you started this by saying you don't want to stereotype athletes. I guarantee you that same mentality that athletes are stereotyped with, that is the same mentality that men have in tech.
That's a better lens, because you're right. I've said that before on the show. Thank you for catching me, because I hate when things like the thing at Baylor. I always said it got framed as an athlete problem. If you read the report, it was a men problem on that campus.
Oh, it was an institutional failure to protect men. Right?
Continue.
Tennessee's Title IX suit. That was not an athlete problem. That was an institutional failure to protect men at the expense of women's safety.
Scapegoats, and you're right. And I do get caught in that pinhole look at it, because this is a sports podcast. I am a former athlete. I've worked in sports my entire life. But you're right. It's a societal, it's a men thing. And I think that's the most important thing we need to realize from all of this. ESPN, a place that is a large publicly traded company owned by fucking Disney.
Yeah.
You guys read the Boston Globe article on them?
Yeah, I have. I have, and as someone that used to work for them, and I tweeted this out, and I know you favored it, Deepom, but the big thing was I didn't see anything because you're so busy
Right.
Trying to keep your head down, trying to get your head from taking off, because that is a high pressure situation that it's very easy to see it or not see it. But the fact that they name names and that one of those guys that's being named right now, John Buccigross, is still working. Despite all
on
that.
TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's not like they shelved him. They still put him on television every night.
Yeah. The fact that they haven't shelved him with this is beyond me. And mind you, I honestly wonder if the Globe talked to someone, because remember, Buccigross wasn't necessarily a guy that everybody was sure was coming back, because his contract was up in the middle of July.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about the timing on when this all comes out, because if this had come out, I don't know, February, March, do we see John Buccigross again?
Oh, we do. We just see him at a reduced rate.
Yeah, on the Colin Cowherd program.
Yeah, I didn't say it. Well, this week also news broke. John Skipper, longtime president of ESPN, stepping down. I think kind of the atmosphere that's been cultivated. We're all kind of waiting for the next shoe to drop. He says it's substance abuse. The timing feels weird. There was an all hands meeting in Bristol last week. He came out and was very adamant about being excited to lead the program and the network into the next century and to continue doing the next new things in sports. Justin, am I being a weirdo who's just kind of in the weeds on this, or like do you go from saying I'm excited to lead to saying I have substance abuse problems in 6 days on your own?
No, so maybe this is just my cynicism. Something happened. And they were made aware of it, and they said, we're getting ahead of this now. Because if we don't get ahead of this, it's going to look bad for us, and we'll have a Papa John situation on our hands. No. We're getting ahead of this now. So I think that's how you sort of get to that point. But yeah, normally when these situations happen, I wonder about what isn't said, right? So going back to Jerry Richardson, we read that SI piece. We know about that. What don't we know about that happened?
Right.
I guarantee you, there's
settlements.
more.
How many more than 4?
Say with Bill O'Reilly, right? We knew about the 32. We knew about the 32 million. I guarantee you, there was more than that.
There was absolutely more than that.
And the thing about it is, it's crazy to me because you see certain arms of the NFL, including like NBC, who's supposed to be a step away at Pro Football Talk. You had articles run this week saying, "Hey, if Richardson's selling a team, why are we still investigating?"
Now that one never made sense to me, because now when you're basically putting a battery in the back of your quarterback and basically bucking the system and saying this, and now with the NFL, it's like saying, you know what, we're not even going to go get Lisa Friel to do this investigation. We're going to go pay real money and go out of house to investigate this. They're taking this real serious now.
But I think it also means that none of the owners like it.
It has to be one of those things where the owners recognize they have to do this for their own survival, because fighting this would only make it worse for them.
Mark Cuban, when they got rid of Donald Sterling, he did not want to get rid of him because he knew it set a bad precedent.
Right. It wasn't out of some magnanimous thing.
Bad, excuse me. And by bad, I mean bad for him.
Yes.
Yeah, bad for him and 29 other owners at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is a self-preservation. No one wants to have that emergency shoot, but in times like this, you need it.
It's the reason a lot of things don't go to lawsuits, because no one wants discovery.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's
it feels like by doing this, the NFL is saying, "Hey, you fuck up, we're coming. We're looking." And that's, for me, is a pretty strong. It's a message I didn't expect. I'll tell you that much. Which tells me that this shit must be ugly.
That's what I'm worried about. And it's funny to bring it back to that Richardson stuff. I had some friends that were working on this story, and they told me Friday it was big. I didn't know how big. Like, they told me Friday, and then because I texted somebody and they were like, "Yeah, this is big. This is pretty big. That's all I can say. You'll find out soon." Little did I know that they would drop that bomb 5 minutes before kickoff, and then put Jerry Richardson on Front Street, literally with the box open, not realizing anything was going to go on.
it is the way it unfolded tells me how little control the NFL or the Panthers actually had in this.
They had no control, but at the same time, and this is where I wonder who's doing what at that in that building. And there are people that in that building that I know, and people that I respect. Some of them I don't, but it makes me honestly wonder what's going on, because in terms of crisis management, it's a pretty piss poor job of it right now. Very poor, because you can't have guys like Luke Kuechly coming out and saying we're gonna win this Super Bowl for Jerry. You can't have
you can't say that.
You can't say that. Like, the best responses I've heard from the Panthers on this one, quite frankly, were from Thomas Davis and Julius Peppers. And you know what they said? Nothing.
Well, it's because Thomas Davis is a damn good dog. That's why Thomas Davis did that.
Yeah, damn good dog that's suspended right now for a game.
Relax. Everybody relax.
Okay.
He on the field. We're talking about something completely different now.
Okay.
He kept on the field, you don't get hit. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, but I don't want to pretend like this is just, like we said, it's not necessarily an athlete problem. It's not necessarily a football problem. It's a man problem. Let's go to Auburn, Alabama. In Auburn, I don't know if you guys heard about this. This is one of those, and that's what gets to me, is that there's so many stories that we could do this all night. We're not going to, but an associate softball coach was banned for romantic relationships with students. Corey Myers, the son of former head coach Clint Myers, who also retired over the summer, was banned not just from the team, but from campus for having romantic relationships with multiple students whom he supervised or coached.
Oh, good Lord.
That's horrific.
Good Lord.
The letter from Title IX office, which banned Myers from campus, reads in part, "We have determined there is sufficient evidence to conclude that you violated the policy prohibiting pursuing or engaging in romantic relationships with more than one student whom you supervised or taught while you're employed as an associate head coach of the softball program. You are banned from campus property and may not attend any university events. Further, you are forbidden from attending any Auburn University softball-related events or activities, whether on or off campus." The school, however, did not find evidence that the former coach had created a hostile environment for the team in the complaint.
Oh, God. Auburn's begging for...
Go ahead.
Auburn's begging for a Title IX lawsuit on this one, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. Auburn, so the complaint was lodged by a pitcher. She's named here, but I don't feel comfortable saying her name. Just whatever, it is what it is. The university said that they produced a finding of non-responsibility for Corey Myers. It stated that there was sufficient evidence to support a finding that unwanted sexual conduct occurred with other members of the team, but not enough evidence to show that Myers' conduct created this hostile environment for you. Full stop.
I'm sorry, what?
Full stop. That's from a university in the United States of America in 2017.
I'm sorry. Can you please repeat?
Stop.
I must.
Yeah, please do.
Full
Please
goddamn stop. It stated there was sufficient evidence to support a finding of that unwanted sexual conduct occurred with other members of the team, but not enough evidence to show that Myers' conduct created a hostile environment for you. Needless to say, the young lady is appealing the decision. I wish her Godspeed. This is now, for the record, the second NCAA softball program which has banned Corey Myers. Arizona State banned him from being a volunteer coach because he didn't have proper clearance, and he used the program to support personal business interests, while, guess what? His dad was the coach there.
I am at a loss for words. Like,
under the radar, not reported anywhere.
Like, how? Like,
here's how. Larry Nassar, who recently went to jail for molesting an innumerable number of girls and horribly scarring them for life, he's going to jail, thank God. 20 years of abuse came to light in September 2016 because the Indianapolis Star did great reporting. However, 2014, Michigan State, who employed Larry Nassar, had an Title IX investigation into the doctor. July 30th, 2014. This is correspondence between Nassar and his boss, Dr. William Stample, who stepped down last week as the Dean of the College of Osteopathic Medicine. Dr. Stample, I've read the report, the Title IX report, and my response to Title IX by email will be, I'm very sorry for Blank's interpretation of my actions during her appointment with me. I am nauseated. I read her account of what occurred. Her interpretations of my mannerisms and actions make me feel horrible. Blank, this has had a profound effect on me. I'm truly sorry. I'm sorry for causing this problem. I'm emotionally drained and exhausted. Blah, blah. The guy wrote back, Larry, we'll have another person in the room whenever you're approaching your parents. They just started, other ways to cover it up. And like, for all, and I hate to make this comparison, but for all the outrage of Jerry Sandusky and how he held Penn State's feet to the fire.
Yeah, Michigan State should be, yeah.
That not only employed him, but referred him to the United States Olympic team and allowed him to serve, because the Olympic team, the way it's set up, he had to serve in a volunteer capacity, so he's only getting paid by Michigan State.
Yeah.
They then gave Michaela Maroney an undisclosed amount of money not to talk about it.
Nearly $2 million, last I heard. Which, if we're honest, like, that makes Maroney look bad. Because how do you take that kind of money and, or basically how much money is worth it for you not to talk?
And you say it makes you look bad. For me, it doesn't for me, because I've never had $2 million put in front of my face. That's one of those, I agree with you in principle, money on the table situation. You know what I'm saying?
Like, literally, they would have
money
to
on the table, dog.
They would have to show me that it, like, they would have to show that in cases.
I've never seen $2 million.
Like, nearly $2 million. Like, and even then, I don't know how my conscience would mess with me so badly with $2 million.
And again, like I said, I do not want to say anything negative about the company, because we don't know the situation. It's not especially lucrative to be a gymnastics, to do gymnastics. I know that.
Also true.
I know that you got to find a way to pay these kids for these camps all over the world. I know that, you know, bottom line, Larry Nassar is a dirtbag, and at multiple times there were chances for people to step in and stop him, but no one did. And I ask out loud here, in what I presume is a safe space of my own podcast, if these were little boys, would it have been louder?
Far louder. Far louder. Far louder.
It's indicative of the poisonous, and I don't want to, it's not America, it's the world treats women like shit.
Exactly. And quite frankly, it just makes me, like, Larry Nassar should be under the jail and facing a firing squad in 90 days tops. He's not going to, because he's going to spend more tax dollars basically being in prison for life. And granted, he should be there.
I'm not having a death penalty argument here today, because I'll make everyone mad.
Yeah.
I'm an absolutist. I don't believe it. But I think the most important thing here is we've got to recognize that this is all this. Is from the locker room to the front office of the Panthers to a hotel room for Olympic trainers. All these men knew that their victims would not be believed.
I mean, let's take
all these men knew that if they came forward, the women would get reprisals. Why don't women report? This is why women don't report.
I mean, let's take it a step further. The entire institution, right? Let's break down football from top to bottom. Owners, coaches, trainers, doctors, players. That same Tennessee had Peyton Manning sexually harass a trainer, and it was largely laughed at, right?
Yes, it was.
Like, I think the next thing that's going to start happening is active players are going to start getting called out next. Like, yo, you did this. And then that's when it's going to, I mean, the capes have already started to come out, right? Like,
and they're disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there is a Matt Damon for the sports world somewhere, right? Once active players start getting named up in it, those capes are going to start getting louder, because now you're affecting people's escapism. You're affecting people's what they used to get away. And now they're going to start saying, well, hold on, I don't understand about all this social justice, blurty blur. And that attitude continues to reinforce, like you said, why women don't report. Because the environment is such that what do they gain from reporting? If you are a woman who has been sexually harassed or abused or assaulted, what do you gain from reporting?
Exactly.
There is no incentive to report. Because even if you report, you might not get justice done.
And
right?
I think the challenge and I'm speaking them in now because we're the ones who need to hear it. Women have literally done nothing wrong. I wouldn't talk to a building that got burned down about what it did wrong for the fire.
Yeah, no, you talk to the arsonist. You absolutely
talk to the arsonist, and that's what I'm talking to right now. I'm talking to the arsonist. And I know a lot of guys are listening and saying, I would never. Cool. Good. There's someone in your orbit who would. I'm not guessing. I'm telling you that. And my challenge is for you to challenge them. For you to make them think, for you to really have the hard conversation, because it's so easy to say, oh, I didn't do it, it's not my problem. It is our problem. It's a societal problem. And women can't fix it.
And to actually expound on that, even if you wouldn't do it, and like you said, even if someone in your crew does it, then have the balls that say, look, either you fix this or I'm snitching, because I can't have that kind of person in my crew.
I'm not even talking about the wide swath of it. I'm talking like the little microaggressions, the stuff that we all say, that's just him. That's how he is. He's kind of an asshole. Like, no, it's not okay. It's not acceptable. And moreover, we've all got women in our lives. I'm not playing the empathy card. I'm not saying you shouldn't need a woman in your life to treat women like people.
Yeah, exactly.
You shouldn't need that, and you don't need that. However, if you do have a woman in your life, you don't know what's happened to that woman. You don't know what she's seen in your life. And you know why you don't know? Because something about you carry yourself, might be telling her you're not a safe person to confide in.
Yeah.
Well, one of my friends, Bev Gooden, says you never know who's like it was something to the effect of you never know who's reading your tweets, right? Every time something like this happens and the capes come out, there is a woman in your orbit who is reading your tweets, who is listening to the things you say and realizing you're not safe. I think the trap a lot of men fall into is they say, not me. And we paint these people that do these things as monsters, and we paint these acts as monstrous acts done in the dark. When in reality, it's not that they're monstrous acts done by monsters. They're so commonplace and they're so it's so normalized to do that, yes, it is possible for everyone in your orbit to do these things, but because they're not a monster like Darren Sharper, you can say, oh, that's just this guy. You can shrug off the microaggressions that are actually violent towards the women in your orbit.
And I think it's wild that the conversation coming from privilege will always sound the same. Whether it's white people saying, oh, I'm not racist, or whether it's men saying, oh, I've never raped anyone.
Yeah.
It is exactly the same, and it is wild for me to see black men properly dissect and understand the power dynamics with white privilege and how it relates to our daily interactions and what microaggressions are and what constant violence is. It's not necessarily being shot in the street. It's the little needling things that you're subjected to every day. We can understand that. When black women ask us to do the same, all of a sudden it's not like that. I'm not a rapist. I'm not out here wearing a white hood, burning crosses.
Right. It's the same
exactly. I'm not a misogynist. Yeah, it's the same thing. And I liken it to sandpaper. We as black men, we get a certain sandpaper hit against us every single day, and it wears away and it erodes at the skin. Women get that every day. And black women,
the higher grade.
They get the higher grade. They get two different sandpapers.
Yep.
One for race, one for sex. And at some point, we got to realize that, hey, look, they get a double dose of that sandpaper every single day, and they're probably eroded. And that's why certain responses are deemed as hostile, because they've been gnawed down to the nub, to the nerve ending, to the point where it's just everything hurts. And you sit back, listen, and again, just sit back and listen. Sometimes it's okay not to have a take.
My man, I appreciate you coming on now. Tell people where to find you, man.
Man, I'm on UpRoxx for UpRoxx Sports at Nata the Scribe. Not only that, but more importantly, I'm going to be adding some responsibilities over at UpRoxx, not only doing UpRoxx Sports, not only doing Dime on UpRoxx, but also UpRoxx Video Games, UpRoxx Life. So you'll be seeing a lot more articles coming from me and less mean tweets towards Dean Palm to my sad dismay.
I don't believe that for one damn second. Justin, man, tell them where to find you, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. You can find me on Twitter at LJ90. You can also check out the podcast, ThreeFifsPodcast.com. Rolling 12s will be coming back 2018.
Yeah. Yes, this is a good thing.
We really had a lot of fun doing Rolling 12s last year, so we're bringing it back. I don't think we're going to keep it up all year, though. It's probably just going to be another limited 4-month run, but it's really fun and exciting, and we hope you guys stick around. Thanks.
All right, man. I appreciate you guys coming on talking about something serious on a Thursday. We're going to run this on Friday the 22nd, I believe. Little programming notes. So make sure you subscribe in the iTunes store to this feed. That way you get all the special episodes like this one. We're also going to be dropping a Christmas Day after episode. Figure y'all be doing the family thing on Christmas Day, so you'll get a very special podcast on that Tuesday. There will also be a myriad of podcasts leading up to the end of the year and into Georgia's attempt to go to the national title game, which, you know.
How does it feel to be the favorite?
For this game, it feels right. I'm not scared of Oklahoma. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm not scared of Oklahoma. I'm not.
Okay.
I watched Hawaii play Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. I know this happens. Anyway, but
I'm going to have to watch a Georgia-Alabama national championship. I'm going to quit football. I'm done. It's been real.
LJ90, if you guys want to watch him live tweet that in a couple weeks.
And I'm going to because I hate myself.
Isn't it great? Self-loathing all around. That was your show. This is your outro. See you guys next week.